what do you think the event was about? What do you think were the most important things that come out of it, what she said?
I think it's just that fundamental right of children to have an access to the arts. For their psychological well-being, their development. I mean, every aspect of their lives can only be enhanced by having the arts around them. They'll become wonderful human beings, and whatever jobs they go into will be better.
I think that the world is full of pessimists. A lot of people grow up and become very pessimistic about culture and believe things are all getting worse. But I think what these people need to do is to spend more time among children and to find out that children really are naturally creative and artistic. And the world will be regenerated by young people. And I think that's why we need to recognise their importance and their significance in our society.
Whenever we hear about dysfunctional children, either not going to school or getting into trouble and being depressed, apparently, the statistic for depressed children is very high. And in all those dysfunctional areas, the arts can help them.
Yes.
Music, dance, theatre, all of these things can help those children.
Yes. And they're not strange things. Children do these things anyway. What does a child do when it begins to grow? It begins to dance, begins to sing, begins to write, begins to draw. And it's just natural. It's not something weird.
I think one of my favourite sights is when you see a little child walking along and it starts to skip. Have you ever noticed a skipping child? And you always know that it's content inside itself when it starts to skip. I always hate the child that kind of drags along, head down behind.
Hello, I'm Milo, and I've just been to the I Have the Right to Be a Child event, which was a very interesting discussion about what rights children have and what place creativity plays in education and in a child's life, certainly particularly their early life when they were very, very young, and whether or not it's a good idea to have any kind of formal education at that age. Now, I'm just going to go, not off topic as such, but a little bit on a slight tangent. When I was 8 years old, I went to see a production of Othello at the Globe. It was the first Shakespeare play I'd been to see, and I'm home educated, so my study of Shakespeare has been in going to see the plays and going to see them at the theatre. And I love Shakespeare. It's one of my favourite kind of things. I think he's brilliant. I think all the plays are brilliant. And I speak to some of my friends who did go to school and learnt about Shakespeare in a formalised system and maybe read him or instead of seeing the plays. And they hate it. They think it's boring and they think it's dull. And the reason why I've talked about this is it very much is the kind of thing which the event was about. It was about how if you take away that creativity, if you try and order and structure it all, then you do lose something. And the event itself was utterly fascinating. Some very good points were raised about creativity and about what had been done in the past to do with bringing creativity back into schools, to moving away from that system which was created around the Industrial Revolution, specifically for that kind of system to create workers who would know the maths and the languages and who wouldn't necessarily be creative workers, to create people who could do kind of businesses rather than doing the arts, and to move it back into an arts-based system. And it was very interesting. We watched two videos. We watched one done by in association with the people at the Egg, particularly at the School Without Walls project, which is a wonderful thing the Egg Theatre has been working on recently. And we also watched one by Michael Morpurgo, talking about how the arts affect a child, how going to see ballet, going to see plays, reading books, sort of seeing paintings, these kind of things have a deep effect on a child's psychology and how they can become great things as they get older. And going back to the book it's about, I Have the Right to Be a Child, has been translated from French, and it does seem a fascinating book. I haven't read it yet, but I do plan to, in particular considering I'm going to a translation event very soon. That might be an interesting thing along with that. But the thing about it is it does get right to the heart of what this is about. You have the right to be a child. Even adults have the right to creativity and to play, and all of that, what that's all about, and the philosophical nature of a child. And so, to sum up, that was what the event was about. It was about why, in the current education system, we don't have enough creativity, and how there needs to be a move towards a more creative kind of approach, towards a more, I'm not quite sure what the, well, I believe they used to be called free schools, but that's got a bit of a different meaning nowadays. But that kind of schools without rules, schools where David Almond talked about one where they've got chickens running around, and it's kind of, from his description, it made it sound a bit like a kind of miniature farm at certain points of it. And this kind of principle of a school which is about creativity, which is about, not just about memorising, which is about learning. I mean, I have a maths teacher who's talked about this quite a bit. It's in maths, it's where it's taught in schools nowadays. It's about, you learn this process to memorise a particular kind of way of doing it. You learn this equation and this causes this to happen. Why? Just memorise it. You don't need to know why. And so this is what this event was about, how we need more creativity in schools. We need to learn, not just memorise. So yes, it was very interesting, and I would recommend that you all track down I Have a Right to Be a Child, and everybody should be more creative. Just play, that's always a good thing.